Good girl. Good girl. Good afternoon. What's happening? Try to get the background noise out of today. Yesterday was a lot of wind. I went back and listened to the broadcast. It was very windy. I feel badly that the audio sucked. How's it going, everybody? Happy Friday. Thank gosh it's Friday. Everyone, I don't know. Fridays always seem like the best day of the week to me. Maybe Thursday nights in college, but Fridays were always the best day because you knew you had the weekend coming up. You had some time on your hands. Hello. How's it going? I was on some lives today. I'm telling you, I wanted to rip I don't have much hair, but I wanted to rip whatever hair I had out of my head. It was so frustrating. Some of these victim card Zionist folks are just absolutely unbearable. Oh my gosh. We'll get into it a little bit. We'll talk about it. But hey, Brenda. So it's just, there are some people that just can't see something from a different point of view, which is troubling. That's where it comes down to people don't have empathy, right? They just can't see anything from any other viewpoint. So the Ben Shapiros of the world are great examples where their identity, their entire existence is tied into the fact that they support Israel, that they're Jewish, that they, all that in a bag of chips. You just can't unwind any of it. Nobody else could be right about anything ever. Candace Owens got fired from the Daily Wire because of the spat between she and Ben Shapiro. And they claim she made a bunch of anti-Semitic comments or statements by evaluating some of the claims made by people about Hollywood. I mean, at what point is it going to be outlawed to talk about a number of other subjects just because some people are sensitive to the fact that it might make them look bad? Why can people be socially canceled for... I'm like Candace. Listen, I'm not a big fan of Candace for some other reasons, but I admire her courage to speak out. And she's a free speech advocate, unabated. Like anything goes. Just if you don't like what somebody says, give a better argument, respond to it. And like I say, as long as somebody's not calling for violence or sharing somebody's personal information, everything else should be fair game. Even if you hate what somebody says. And a lot of times I don't like what people say, but who cares? It's their point of view, not mine. But I have to say, fair enough. Hi. But I don't think we should be banned because of it or socially ostracized or that kind of crap. Anyway, she's a polarizing figure. She's somebody who became very popular because she's African American, and yet she speaks to many conservative issues. Who, by the way, who happens to be Jewish, not that it matters, but this is a friend of mine who's in a real pinch, and he needs help. So I've been helping him. And that's what friends do, right? But the fact that I'm called anti-Semitic or that I hate Jewish people is the most absurd thing in the world. Anyway, if you knew the depths to which I've been helping this person, you would be shocked. But it's what you do for people when they need you. So anyway, this afternoon, I was in a live, maybe about an hour ago, maybe a little less. And this girl I think her name is Queen of Israel, I think it is. And she's a younger person. And we were trying to have a conversation. The host let me come up, which was nice of him. He disagrees with me, but that's fair. He let me speak. And then this person comes in and starts shouting over me. And does the old whataboutism. So, for example, you would say something like, why is it that the Israelis detain young people under administrative detention and don't let them out for, sometimes years on end? And she goes, well, what about the people in Qatar who take money? No. What about that? Who gives a shit about that? What does that have to do with the fact that the Israelis take what are effectively hostages? And she was pressing about the hostage issue. And I said, fair enough. I said, I think it's right that the hostage should be returned. What about the hostages that are sitting in Israeli prison? Anywhere between 7,000 and 11,000 at any given time are there. And is it fair for them to be released as well? Well, they're all terrorists is what she would say. No, they're not. She was also trying to make the argument that all Palestinians hate Jews and all they want to do is kill Jews. They're raised from the beginning of life to kill Jews, and that's it. And that's their only thing that makes them happy. And that's all they want to do. And I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. There are always going to be some radical people that have hate in their heart for somebody, I guess. But, my question to her was, why did the H group form in the first place? Why does any group form in the first place that has a more militant arm? Why do they do that? That they just want to go hurt somebody for no reason? Probably not. They probably have something that they're dealing with that they're trying to get out from under. But she just can't even open her mind up to see any of that. It's beyond frustrating. And what I had to do was just leave the live because, first of all, she wouldn't let anybody else speak. She was just going on and on and on. And whenever you would say a word, she'd just jump on top of you. And that just doesn't get anywhere. But I was on a different live. And the person said, why would if we were talking about the fact that Netanyahu had funded and had recommended the funding of Hamas because it would create a larger political divide between the Palestinians, which he did say that, and he did do that. And the guy didn't think that had happened. So I was trying to read a quote that Netanyahu said publicly. He wouldn't let me read it. I tried like 17 different times to read it. He just kept talking over me. And so if he was trying to get me to answer his question, he says, well, why is it if the Israelis are funding this group, why would Palestinians support it? I said, hey, dumbass, they're going to support the resistance group if they're funded by Ronald McDonald, your uncle, or the Israel. It doesn't matter who gives them the money. They probably don't even know it's coming from the Israelis. But they're going to support anything that can try to help them out of their plight. And I answered his question, and then he still wouldn't let me read this quote. And the quote basically says this, that in order to halt the two-state solution, we have to support, encourage, and fund the H group to the best of our ability, which will divide them politically, something like that. Anyway, so this is the kind of stuff here. This is why I love running the lives, because there's definitely a way to do it that fosters good dialogue, and there's a way to be a total jackass. And unfortunately today, yet again, that's why I don't go on many people's lives anymore, because it's just a total waste of time. But anyway, I digress. So there is somebody in the guest box. I've been doing a lot of talking these last few days. So Avi Sweets is here. This is going to be great. So hopefully, Avi, let me just say this publicly first, as I do always. I'm not singling you out, Avi. I want to have the conversation to be about the subject matter at hand. So people in the chat, please no personal attacks against the guest. Please be polite, no name calling, no, of course, nothing out of bounds. And same thing for the guests. Let's talk about the issues and not each other. And with that in mind, let's be polite and respectful, not cut each other off. I'm going to welcome Avi, unless Avi dropped. Avi, welcome to a live that will give you a chance to speak like none other.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm okay. How's it going over there?
Oh, great.
By the way, I just want to share a funny story with you. So recently I've had some guests on that are pro-Israel, and some people came on as other guests who are pro-Palestinian, and they got angry at me because they thought I was giving too much time and platform to somebody with whom they disagreed. So they thought I was like pro-Israel all of a sudden or something like that. I'm like, hey, just because I let somebody speak.
You can change your opinion, maybe.
Well, listen, I want to listen to other people, and sometimes people say some things that really make me think, which I think is the whole point of these dialogues. So in that regard, what's on your mind?
I don't think really you want to change your mind, because there are some narrative that you keep saying, and you know they're not true, but you keep saying it. But
which one? Tell me which one are you talking about?
I just give me a few minutes. I'm gonna say to you, but I want to talk before you just saying a few minutes ago, and I totally agree with you about people who have a narrative and they cannot change the narrative and they cannot think, in the other side. I give you example. You can be a pro-Palestine and about all the Palestinian issue, and you can also understand what's happening in Israel in the 7th of October. But I'm usually in the last 2 months, 3 months in the lives, and all of the usually the Arabs, but all the pro-Palestine, all the lives, all the time they're saying 7th of October. Oh, most of them say it didn't exist. Most of them says it was just, they're making a military and a little bit of citizens. It happened during the attack. But I never met a Palestinian guy. I can say that I really, really, I have terrible time about any baby or any innocent people who get unalive in Gaza. Really, I think I know that not all the Israelis agree. There are some people, right-wing extremists, but I never met a Palestinians in the live, a pro-Palestinian, that say it's really miserable what the age group done in the 7th of October. it's at the atrocities and what they've done all the time. It's never happened. The Haaretz newspaper says it's never happened. The Apache story, you know, the Palestinian people cannot think both sides. They have the narrative. We have the Canaanites or the new
Uh,
stuff they invent. We are,
basically, you
let me
like
just
trying to
finish
say,
and then you
Hold on,
let me
Mark. Let him
finish and then
finish.
you can react. You know, they have the narrative, and all the pro-Palestine never, and I listen. They say, yeah, 7th of October, it was atrocity. What they done, the age group is not Palestinian issue. Like that, like they say the ISIS. Like they say about the ISIS people, you know. And then another thing I disagree about you, and it's totally lie what you're saying. You're saying about 10 minutes ago that if their age group, the militant age group, or the militants, they're doing something bad. So there is a reason to do it. So you have to think what is the reason for to do this stuff. Why they make the military wing? You can say the same stuff about ISIS. ISIS are even the Arabs said so we have to understand them because the ISIS do come over. Why? Because the Shia the
That noise.
Shia yeah, it's ringing
Well,
the
just,
Shia and the
look,
Sunni.
Avi, real quick. Just why do you believe that the H group formed, or the more militant arm came to be? What's your reason behind that? What do you think it is?
Of course, the age group are the sons of the Islamic movement is established in Egypt, and the main issue of the Islamic movement, and you can see in the charter, to make a Khalif Islamic all over the Middle East. It's written in the charter, and the founder Ahmad Yassin said it loud and clear, and the founder of Egypt, it was of course the saying it's going to be by military, not just against the Jewish. To force the Islam in all this area. You can read it on the charter. What they're saying about any Jew that behind any tree, we have to analyze them. It's from the beginning. It was military. You can read the charter. The first charter, it was military charter. The first day they make the coup against the Palestinian Authority. You know, they start to make airport, the Palestinian Authority, and they start to make organization them. And then they took 300, 400 Palestinian officers and throw them. You know, even traffic officer, they throw them from the roof. One minute, I have to stop. I
Real
have
quick,
a phone. One
well,
minute.
that's going on. Just
So,
I want to interject and say a couple quick things. So first of all, someone in the comments keeps saying, if the United States had hostages, wouldn't I want them back? Yeah, I do want the hostages back that are Israeli being held in Gaza. I've said that multiple times. I want them back, not only back, but I want them back soon, and I want them back safely. So just to answer that question, of course, that's the humanitarian thing to do. They shouldn't have been taken in the first place, nor should the thousands of Palestinians who were held under administrative detention been taken out of the West Bank and stuck in Israeli jails indefinitely. I think fair is fair, and they should be returned safely and immediately. So, but with that said, this is my understanding. If I'm wrong, I could be wrong. I'm willing to listen to other explanations. But as far as I know it, at the time that the H group formed, which was, I believe, in 1988, since 1967, there was an ongoing military illegal occupation of the West Bank, according to almost everybody on the earth, except for one state, and that state's called Israel. So therefore, let me finish, Avi, then I'll let you get back on your train. So therefore, it's possible the things that Avi's mentioning may contribute to the formation of the group. I'm not sure of that. I've heard that before. However, what I also understand is that it's also possible that because, and I think he was talking about throwing people off of top of buildings, when there was a divide between the H group and the Palestinian Authority, when they broke ranks, some of the administrators from the Palestinian Authority who were no longer welcome in Gaza were summarily thrown off the rooftop and unalived, which is horrific. And I don't agree with those tactics. And I'm not a fan of the H group with that kind of behavior, especially with the one on October 7th in terms of the civilians. I think it's also equally horrific. So I want to make these points clear. These are differentiations that are important to make. It's not all or nothing. Supporting the concept of resistance to an ongoing plight is not the same as supporting the horrific tactics that may be included in the resistance movement. I think that's a fair differentiation to make. It's not all or nothing. But as far as the reason to form, this is why I ask this question all the time. Why would any militant resistance group form ever? Why did the Americans, the original American colonists, why did they form? They tried to throw tea in the harbor, which was the Boston Tea Party. That was called civil disobedience. That didn't change the British policy. Why did they take up muskets or arms and fight the British? And why did they do it in an unconventional fashion? Why didn't they go stand face to face with the Redcoats and try to fire them man for man? Well, first of all, they had like 1/20th the number of men, 100th the number of weapons. And so they had to use unconventional tactics. So to criticize any group, whether it's the Vietnamese resistance or whether it's, the people in Gaza, to use unconventional tactics and call it something like terrorism is rather absurd. You do what you can with what you got. Unfortunately, that's the way it has to be. But the reason why somebody formed, this is what I'm trying to think. If I were somebody living inside of Gaza, and I've been watching for decades as the people who led my organizations could not make peace, and there was no autonomy for my people, and every time there was a possibility of it, it got quashed. And then people would look at us and say, well, why aren't you people peaceful? Why don't you want to resolve this peacefully? And the reason is because there's been no way to resolve it peacefully. And the claim from the other side is all you ever want to do is unalive all the Jews. So therefore, there can't be peace with people that think that way. My understanding, and maybe it's flawed, is that that's not the case. That most people who are Palestinian, if not almost every single person to a T, doesn't want to hurt Jewish people. They don't like what happened in 1947-48 with respect to their families, and with the formation of Israel caused great harm to their family's traditions. As it would if it had been Jewish people, the same thing had happened. If the roles were flipped exactly, and Jewish people were kicked off their land and a lot unalived, and all that mayhem, some of whom stayed inside this Arab area and assimilated into their culture, but many of whom were scattered to the wind. And if the same behavior had been perpetrated by an Arab government and the same recipient of said behavior had been against Jews, I would be criticizing the Arab government for what it has been doing and what it continues to do, especially with the disproportionality of the whole thing. Even if the attack that the Jewish group meted out on the Arabs was horrific and involved all sorts of atrocities and unalived, 12, 13, 15, or whatever the number is, killing 35, 40,000 people, 15,000, 18,000 women and children, it's just unacceptable. There's no justification for it. And if the Arab government was saying that Jewish militants were using their population as shields to make them look bad, I would laugh in their face and say, I don't care if they even are doing that, which they aren't. You can't do that kind of stuff. And that's why the world's outraged, and shame on the Arabs for doing that. That's what I would say. So it's not a Jewish Arab thing. It's a behavior power dynamic thing. Anyway, let me let you continue, Avi.
First of all, I'm very happy that you agree with me that the age group didn't start the violence because of Israel. They are a violent movement against the Palestinian Authority. What they do in the 7th of October, it wasn't just against Jews. The Thai people, 12 Thai people was unalived, 12 was captured. And also Muslim, Bedouin Muslim was unalived and that get captured. It's a violent movement, not because of Israel or not because of nothing, because in the charter that's written about the Khalifa Islamic that's going to be by force to be the Islamic war. It's not I'm saying it's the first charter, and according to what you're saying now, you're saying you have to any violent have a reason. So ISIS, we have to understand the reason what they do, what they done in the time that they were in Syria and Iraq, because they not just came from nothing. They have a reason because the Shiite was against the Sunni for a long time, so they want a revenge. So according to what you're saying, every movement you have to understand her and not to fight her because it's never going to fight. You have to do it by peace or by no. I'm totally not understand. Not the masterman people, not ISIS, not the Islamic Jihad, not the age group. I'm not talking about the Palestinians, of course. Those extremist movements, they are nothing about peace. They are racist extremist movements that God tell them to do this and to do this. Is nothing about peace.
I got to jump in and do, otherwise you'll just talk forever. Let me let you finish your point, but that's about 15 more seconds. I need to be able to respond. Okay, I just don't want to talk forever.
Yeah, of course. No, I just finished. I just make two of your point. I think you understand me that it's not true about the age group what you're saying, and about a violent movement that you cannot fight them because you ever understand where they come from.
Okay, so here's the point I try to make. Okay, the H group is an entity. It's an entity. It happens to be the primary entity that has political power in addition to a militant wing that primarily are the ones that carried out the attacks on 10/7 and most of the rocket fire before that. However, it could be any group. It doesn't matter because in the mindset of resistance, you could call it the Continental Army, you could call it the ragtag colonists. It's about the idea that if you're being subjected to oppression, as any human being that lives under oppression, at least that they perceive they are, that oppression is going to lead towards some sort of backlash, whether it's political, verbal, or nonverbal in terms of violence. It's not unusual. That's not out of the question. Now, if you look at groups like Daesh, I don't want to say the name in terms of the algorithm, they acted out of religious fanaticism and wanted to go unalive who they thought were infidels. That was more of a crusade based on violence for strictly religious reasons. I do not believe that that's the basis for the behavior in the groups that are fighting for the freedom of Palestinians. Now, I can't say that every single member who's a part of the group doesn't feel some of those religious reasons. They might, and they could have two reasons that motivate them. It's not always one or the other. But I would gather that the vast majority, I don't know anybody from that group, so I've never spoken to them, but I would imagine it just makes sense from the circumstances. The reason why they continued to attack in 2005, you might say, well, hey, why would they continue to attack Israel after Israel withdrew the settlements in 2005 from Gaza? That's a fair question. Are these people just violent by nature? They just hate Jews, or they want to get rid of Judaism, or they're on a religious crusade? That could be. But it also could be that even though they disagreed politically and threw people off the building who they disagree with politically, which is a pretty horrible way to establish your disagreements. I agree with you there. I condemn that. But they also feel the joint nature of their people. Remember that the political representatives and the people of your country are two different things. In the United States especially, we have a political structure that is more corrupt and more distant from representing the people than ever, as far as I can tell. So people who are angry about America and the direction it's heading in don't hate the people. They don't have an ideological thing against Americans. They don't like political corruption and the wrong direction we're headed in with militarism and empire and the diversion of money and inflation and all the problems we're sliding into. So, and likewise, the people that support the idea of resistance don't necessarily support the individuals who happen to be the more violent men of society that carry weapons, and they don't support the unaliving of civilians per se, but they do like to see some kind of change of circumstance if their circumstances have been such that they haven't seen any change, and no other type of course of action has had any impact. In fact, things have continued to get way worse rather than better. And the question is, do you sit back under those circumstances and just let things slide indefinitely into a corner, or do you do something about it? The question in America is going to be, is the public going to do anything about it? Are we going to sit back and just take it and let it get worse and worse and worse? Are we going to try to vote our way out of it? Or are we going to realize eventually that something more than that's going to be required? I hope it doesn't have to be violent. I hope it can be nonviolent. And that's the way it would ideally be. I think the H group or other groups would not be violent if there was a solution that was nonviolent. I think what you're claiming is that they have some sort of abject hatred that makes them violent per se, and therefore all they want to do is act in that violence. I think that is very simplistic, overarching, and while I can't say for sure it doesn't account for 100% of people, I can guarantee you that not everybody believes that, and probably most don't. That's my take. Let me let someone else come in. I think Mark was going to say something. Mark, welcome. What would you like to say?
Yes, hi, how are you?
Good, thank
So
you.
basically, the problem that I see with the propellers, including your own perspective, is the idea that there's even any chance, even a slight chance, of a one-state solution. That would be, in my opinion, a recipe for disaster. So and it's actually harming Palestinians. Basically, aiming too high, aiming too far, aiming unrealistic, to basically achieving unrealistic goals and but in basically losing everything, but not accomplishing anything.
Do you think that anything's been accomplished by this? I mean, as horrible as that day was, and hopefully nobody's for what happened in terms of civilians or even the military. I don't want to see anybody die in conflict anywhere. But do you think that anything positive for the movement in general? I know the people individually in Gaza are suffering horrifically based on the response.
Exactly.
But in terms of how you would categorize that and look at it from a broader perspective, is it possible? And this is one of the observations that I've made. Not even in these forums, just in videos and stuff. As horrible as things have gone and continue to go, and probably will continue to get worse for those in Rafah and elsewhere, all the death, destruction, loss of life, displacement, loss of businesses, economy, physical infrastructure, all that stuff. Is it possible that some of the trade-offs that have come for that, which things have changed, by the way, I think it'd be irresponsible not to acknowledge the fact that more people are talking about this issue than ever before. That's one
You're
thing.
right about that, but the problem is talking is just words and discussions is just um you're not basically you're not accomplishing anything. Basically, it's the world will be over soon and back to square one
Well,
and
let me let me let me
worse.
let me finish the thought. I think this is it's. I think it's this. You might be totally right. In fact, that probably is the case. But I think one of the differences, which is fair to point out, and I've been watching this for a long time, since 1989. So I've had a lot of time to kind of compare and contrast. This is by far different era, obviously, with different information flows. But because of this type of media, social media, more people than ever, both in the United, especially in the United States, young people, but across the world, are seeing things that they were never permitted to see before. And whether Israel likes this or not, And whether people believe the narrative of Israel or not, whatever you want to say about how they behave, whether you can justify it for security or response or whatever, people are seeing something they've just never seen before. And people have emotional reactions to seeing things. We're visual creatures. And when we see things that are horrific to look at, we can't always chalk it up to the way someone else describes it. And so many people, and this is the big difference, I think, have had a very visceral and negative emotional reaction towards what Israel's chosen to do. Not necessarily the Israeli people or even the country. They're just astounded that this has been allowed to happen. There's a lot of anger, especially among young people. And so the awareness of the conflict in general, but specifically the actions that the Israeli government will take and does take, and that's also opened up their eyes to go back and look in the past. And many people now are learning, hey, wait a second. If this is happening now and we were always told one version of events, what happened before? So people are doing things like reading books and watching videos and trying to learn more. And it's opening up a lot of eyes. And from what I've learned over the years, and again, I don't want to say this, I'm just trying to be fair and observe things. I understand the Israeli point of view. They want security. They want to have their people be safe from terrorism, et cetera. I agree with that. But the question is, at what price do they put other people through to try to meet their goals? And I understand you can, my argument would be, I think there's ways to meet one's goals without going to the extent to which the Israelis have gone, not only in the last 5 months, but for the last 5.5 decades.
But how about focusing more on a two-state solution, rather than focusing on things that that has no probability of happening,
Yeah,
of actualizing.
yeah, that's a fair point. So here's my question: for if nothing was going to lead in that direction anyway, which I don't believe
Exactly.
it was. I mean, the two problems, I've talked about this at length as well, and I think anybody who's looked at this for a long time knows this. The geographical fragmentation that's taken place in the West Bank through settlements has become, irreparable. I don't think it's technically or politically feasible, logistically feasible to relocate and dismantle communities of 700,000 plus people. It's just not going to happen. So then the question is, well, what do you do with that? These fragmented little pebbles of Palestinian villages, and now they have the areas A, B, and C developed under the Accords. But it's just not really a contiguous territory like any nation state. It would be like having like 15 different specs. It's just a very strange way to set up. So that's not going to happen. So the two-state solution is off. And then the one-state solution would involve incorporating all of the residents into one single state under democratic rule, which would be representative government. And of course, people who are in charge want a Jewish majority because it's a Jewish homeland. And they don't want to have a bunch of people who are of Arab descent running the
Exactly.
country that's supposed to be a Jewish homeland. I get that too. So it leaves us in a quandary, right? It's a predicament. So what do you do then? Well, the question is, if there's no light at the end of that tunnel for any of those who see these variables, and believe me, the people who are Palestinian are not stupid, the ones who lead them understand all these variables. The question is, what could force the changes to have something give? Because nothing was giving before. It was only continuing to become more settled, more fragmentation of land, more brutality meted out by the Israeli military and government. And that's just, unfortunately, what happens. I wish it wasn't the case. So the answer for their point of view was, and I can't speak for them, they did what they thought was the right thing to do. They decided to attack. And they did. They for whatever you want to say about it, it was a pretty lethal attack. If you just strip away all this stuff and just look at it from a military standpoint, it was a pretty lethal attack. Now, the H group doesn't have the ability, militarily or any other way, to dismantle the state of Israel. Let's face it. They maybe have 40,000 fighters. They have much limited equipment. There's no way they could, A, dismantle and beat the Israeli military in terms of an all-scale assault on Israel, or B, corral the people and harm the people. It's just not physically possible. They don't have access to weapons of mass destruction. None of
So
that stuff.
so why they start the war? Why they start the war?
Hold on.
Why they start the
Hold on.
war?
Hold
They
on.
have that.
Hold on. Hold on. I was just talking about that. All right, hold on. I was just trying to get to that. The reason why I'm not privy to any meetings. I can only guess based on political analysis. So I'll do my best to guess. My guess is that they realized that there's no positive way of sitting still and waiting. That's not bringing anything to their plight. Now, one could argue that by spurring conflict, it causes more harm to their people in terms of the response we're seeing than any other benefit. They may calculate it differently. They may have thought that, A, by taking hostages, they would at least get some people back out of prison. Now, that was a miscalculation because the Israeli government has been unwilling to negotiate prisoner swaps for the most part. Secondly, which I think is more important, is the political awareness globally of this issue and the potential future political pressure that may be able to be brought to bear if people decide to coalesce and do something about it, to bring so much pressure on the state of Israel to force change. Now, it may not work. It may not happen, but I do know one thing. There was no chance of that happening 6 months ago because people just didn't know any better. Most people had no clue about this issue. I didn't either in 1989 until somebody told me about it. So I think that was the calculation. And I think that any oppressed group is not going to stop trying to fight back until you either extinguish every single person from the group or they somehow come up with a political resolution. And these people are resolute, as you might know, or they wouldn't do what they're doing. They're not going to leave. The countries that surround them shouldn't be blamed for not taking them in because why should they? It's land that they lived on for generations, and why should they have to leave? Just because one group says they should, because they're deciding they're going to try to blow everything up in their path. So I don't believe that they did it out of just complete callous disregard for their people. The people who make that argument, I think that's disgusting. It was for a longer term goal.
I don't think Avi understands how a resistant group works. There's different forms of resistance group that resist differently. Example, Black Panthers, the Sakaris, which were a Jewish resistance group that unalived people on the Holy Land. Every resistance group works differently and attacks differently. And my belief is when H did their attack on October 7th, they wanted to do something similar back with what they did in 2011, I believe, where they took hostages from Israel. And whoever was in charge in 2011, I forgot his name, who was in charge in 2011, released 1,000 of the Palestinian hostages in return of their hostages.
It was Olmert.
Thank you. That's what the plan was. No plan of Grapin, which still hasn't been reported or seen in the courts. No report of anything. Yes, there was an unalive baby, a Jewish baby, yes. So that's how resistance group work. Every resistance groups works differently. Period. To go back to the whole point of ISIS, I'm sorry, I don't know if I could pronounce their name on the live, but how now they're being blamed for this tea attack in Moscow. It's kind of funny to me how it was in City Hall at a concert, kind of similar to the concert on October 7th. It seems like everything Israel is doing, they're pointing finger at one group, but four fingers are pointing back at them. But, it's been said, they're failing miserably, trying to get everybody to believe Palestinians and all Arabs are T groups when we're not. We just want to be free, especially the Palestinian. I'm Palestinian. We don't want to keep living like this. We're going to keep resisting until we get our freedom. It's as simple as that.
What do you say to folks who say that the only form of resolution should be to come to the table peacefully and not use any sort of violence? Do you think that the peaceful offerings in the past have been ones that were able to be accepted, or were they just not deals that were worthy of acceptance?
You know how they keep saying the Palace or H group keeps rejecting it? It's them. It's Israel that keeps rejecting it. How many more kids of ours that you have to put through prison? How many of them? This is why we resist. The kids that are thrown in prison, everybody now is seeing how they've been treated, how our women have been treated, how when the IDF goes in our villages, how they've been treated. This has been going on for years and decades. October 7th didn't just happen because we wanted to do a Halloween scare on you guys. It's a resistant movement. And this is something Avi has to go back in history and read on all resistant groups, not just Arab resistant groups.
All right, let's get okay, real quick, and let's get out. Let me hear Avi's response.
I'll land my plane with this one more thing that I'm gonna say. How many more tears do we have to shed for the Jewish community over the Holocaust? They have been getting money from America, which, by the way, America didn't put the Jewish community in the Holocaust. Hold on, please let me finish. America didn't put the Jewish community in the Holocaust. Germany did. Yet America is still giving these people money. I believe it's about $1,000 a month for Holocaust survivors. Meanwhile, the Black community, African American community in the United States have been put through slavery for decades in America, and they have been given nothing. So how many more tears do we have to shed for the Jewish community to overcome the Holocaust movement? Meanwhile, they're starving women and children. It's been televised. We're all looking at it. We're all seeing it every morning. And the only thing they know how to respond to is it's H. H is doing this to their own people.
Okay, Avi, thank you for sharing what you shared. Please stay up if you can. Avi, what would you like to say in response?
I want to respond to you because you keep saying, after I I make you the proof about what is the age group, and what are the founder, or what is the first charter, and the fighting on the name of God, and you start to make an issue like, yeah, there are some other resistant groups all over the world and stuff like this. You cannot compare religious,
I'm sorry to cut you off,
fundamentalistic.
Avi.
Let me.
No,
I didn't interrupt you, Aisha.
let him
Please.
finish. Thanks.
I did not. You cannot compare a fundamentalist people that say that God talking with them, and in the old books that we found in Gaza, you see how how they look, the Jews with the big nose, and you have to analyze them. But I don't talk about it. I talk about you. You just compare the age group to other you can compare the age group to Daesh, or what you're saying, because they both came from Cairo, from the Islamic movement, by the founder in Egypt, and the history is well known. So how you can compare, all like the dependence in America, whatever, with fundamentalist Islamic group that want to make the Islamic law, the Khalifa and everything. It's written in the first charter. I know there is a second charter. Why the second charter was established? Because the European Union told them, if you're not going to change this racism and this stuff in this issue, we're gonna make you a T group in the European
Okay.
Union.
So
So
we
they
are.
make like
So,
they make the
I want to make sure I understand. Your argument is that the resistance is not born of the occupation; it's born of a religious fundamentalism and the
of
desire
course,
to.
like Daesh. They say,
Okay, so let me ask one more point. Okay, so have you ever heard the statement "God gave the land to the Jews"? And have you heard of this
yeah,
book called the Talmud?
yeah, of
Okay,
course,
so do they play a role in any of the violence that's committed by Israel?
of course.
Okay, so you're
Of
condemning
course,
one
yeah,
group.
I'm not like you. I can criticize my own people also, but you guys and also Aisha and the pro-Palestine, they never criticize even the fundamentalist movement, like age group that they didn't go to a military base. They just go. I see the footage how they in the party. So they come with the guns, and there is the toilets paper when people hiding in the toilet. The movement toilets, the field toilets, and they not go in there and shoot any toilet because maybe people is hiding there. They're so violent, they're so not human, and you say,
Okay, well, hold on. I think saying they're not human is a little bit unfair. They're definitely human beings. You may think that they're monsters. Out of it. Hold on,
no,
David.
no, they are not. They
Hold
are
on.
not. The,
Hold
the
on.
age group are
Hold on.
human
Hold
being?
on. Hold on.
Of
Avi,
course not.
let's do this. We have a lot of people that are here. I've reiterated your point, so I am listening to you. I disagree. I can't deny the fact that what you're saying. I have to look it up. I think there are roots of that. That's the Muslim Brotherhood. I've heard that before. Some of the founding members. So I don't disagree with you there. I just think there can be more than one motivation. There may be some in the group that are religiously motivated, as there are in Israel. There's rabbis I've heard speak that say it's okay to kill every single Palestinian in the territories. I don't think that's how everybody in Israel thinks. I don't think that's how every Jewish person thinks, but there are those who are Jewish and Zionist who do say that. So again, you have to be able to, and you said you've been able to acknowledge both, which is good. Blanco is here, hasn't had a chance to speak yet. Blanco, welcome.
Oh, hey, thank you so much for having me up, Chip.
Sure.
I just wanted to say, man, I was unsure about Hamas before, but after the attack in Moscow today, Hamas actually sent their condolences to the Russian people, right? And we saw no such thing from Israel or America or the NATO countries. So you know what? I'm gonna give a W to Hamas, man. They are showing more humanity than Israel or any of these so-called freedom-loving
Can you
Western
just tell?
countries. So I gotta say, man,
Not
respect.
everybody. Hold on. Not everybody in the audience may have heard what happened. Can you just please tell the news?
Yeah. So the crazy thing is, man, a few weeks ago, the CIA and MI6 and Mossad say that, hey, there's gonna be a T attack in Moscow, right? And sure enough, it just happened. T guys, they enter a mall. There's footage of it. It's sickening. And they shoot and they massacre these like regular people and like just civilians in a mall, right? And what are the Western people do? They're laughing at these people, right? They're laughing at these victims, right? And Hamas is sending their condolences, right? I mean, it's clear
It
to
was
me
a.
who the
It was a.
monsters
It
are
was a. It was a
in this whole.
concert. Just it was a concert hall, not a mall, but it was a big concert hall.
Sorry to interrupt. Is the Mossad doing this
Yeah,
or Muslim
yeah,
people
but it was
doing
just
this?
sick,
Is the
man.
All right. In other words, let me let Blanco finish us. But the bottom line to the audience is
No, man. Well,
there
it
was
could be
there
the
was an attack
Mossad.
that happened inside of Russia. We're not really clear exactly who did it yet, at least as of the last reading. But it unalived a lot of people and injured many more. It was like one of America's mass shootings, but really bad. So I think what you said was the H group contacted the Russians and said, "Hey, we're really sorry this happened," but the Americans and the Israelis expressed no such sentiment. Did you want to say
Exactly,
something?
yeah. And not only that, they actually said a few couple weeks ago. It's like they knew, right? It's like they had insider information, but didn't give the Russian people any such advance. So they either knew who did it, or they were tied to it, right? Which I would suggest that since the Mossad and CIA and MI6 don't have that good intelligence inside of Russia, they probably were linked to this thing. They probably are linked to the people that did it. So that's my gut, man. And we're gonna find out soon. But man, if it is, man, where something has got to be done with these guys, man. You know, it's something.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think if I had to guess, there's an attempt to draw the Russians into a broader conflict with NATO. I think that's why a lot of these events have taken place inside of Russia and in Crimea. And I think Putin is a very measured guy, like him or hate him. He's probably the shrewdest, wisest politician alive today. And I think he will not take the bait. But it's so awful that things like this keep happening. And I don't know who's at fault. I don't know who's at fault, so I don't want to speak too soon. But that wouldn't surprise me one bit. Okay, I think the next person that has
Can I say or just one sentence, Chip? Just one
well,
sentence, can I say?
let me give a chance to Revolution and Diewood, and then I'm happy to bring you back in. Just keep that thought, Avi. So, Revolution, welcome. What would you like to say?
Oh, good. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. I just want to say, for my two pennies worth, really, about what's going on today. I mean, what's going on today is Israelis are running like headless chickens. Do you know what I mean? They're an open book. They're stark naked, and their crimes are open for the whole world to see. Do you know what I mean? They went far and beyond of what's going on in Gaza. There are people who normally sit on the fence. Do I take this side? Do I take that side? I don't know what's going on. I'm actually taking the Palestinian side because the world is traumatized. And I'm sorry to say, Avi and Israelis like Avi would come into these chat shows, into these rooms, these platforms, and they'll talk about nonsense like, oh, Haniyeh is worth $3 million. Who cares? No one cares about these tiny, teeny details where you're actually escaping the real subject, because the real subject here is over 25,000 innocent women and children have been unalived by your army, by the Israeli army. What's going on here today? Well, you're an open book, and we can see that you've flattened North and Central Gaza. You've exhumed graves and flattened them. There are no H group in those graves. You're preparing that land, to be occupied for more settlements to be built there. What the world sees today, because you guys are stark naked, and I'm going to say it again, you're an open book. You're naked. We can see you. We can see everything you're doing to the Palestinians. People who don't know anything about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict know more now today, because there's social media, there's news. We can see the videos. We've seen the videos of the IDF soldiers, playing with knickers of Palestinian women, bombing buildings and gifting them to his wife, to his fiance. This is for your birthday. Look, I'm going to bomb this building. And they've done that. We've heard the voice of Hind Rajab, a 5-year-old Palestinian girl, Avi, a 5-year-old Palestinian girl, scared and crying. Come and help me. I'm on my own in this car. The whole family is gone. And the two lads who went to get this young girl were taken out and unalived. And 12 days later, they find the body of this young lady, a 5-year-old girl, a rotten body with her family in that car. What the world sees today, because you're naked, you're an open book, and you can't hide from your crimes and your BS left and right. I'm talking about this or that, or years or months or whatever nonsense you're coming up with, because you cannot win this argument. We've seen on CNN families, normal Israeli families, taking 3, 4, 5-year-old kids to demonstration to stop aid trucks from coming into Gaza. How can anyone in this Milky Way justify this? And when the CNN lady speaks to this, perfectly articulate middle class Israeli woman, she gives a shocking answer. And the CNN reporter is flabbergasted, does not know what to do with it. They taking children to a demonstration to stop aid trucks to go into Gaza. Gaza, where women, we've seen them on telly, we've seen them on news outlets, holding the hands of their children day in, day out. Children that are dying of starvation. Do you know what I mean? That's what we've seen. So you cannot hide from this. Stop talking about absolute nonsense and talk about the facts. Your army are actually can't help themselves. They're actually reporting, documenting their crimes, and putting it on video. How dumb can you be? Do you know what's that called in my book? It's called arrogance. That's what it is. They document their crimes and they put it on video for the world to see. And their videos are going viral. And then you tell me the most moral army, the only democracy in the Middle East, I call that BS. And I'll say in plain words, total bullshit. We can see your crimes, guys. And your days, look, and do you know what? Sorry, Chip, I'm going to stop in a minute. Do you know what I mean? With what's going on in Gaza today, I see the reality of a Palestinian state more real today than ever. And I think maybe I'm being naive, but that's how I see it. That's how I rationalize this. That's how I analyze this. Do you know why? Because the world is shocked. The world is traumatized with what they're seeing in Gaza. And the world is thinking, like me, enough is enough. This is insane. We have had enough of watching and observing Palestinians being slaughtered again and again and again and again. But today, this man, this criminal, Netanyahu, has broken all barriers. Do you know what I mean? And as a Moroccan, do you know what I mean? This is how we're feeling here. And my view here as a Moroccan, that's what we say here in Morocco, because we have the biggest Jewish community in the Arab world. We say here in Morocco, when you're a Zionist, you stopped being Jewish, because Jews are not Zionists, and Zionists for sure are not Jewish people, because Jews are a peace-loving religious group, and Zionists are the absolute contrary of that. Thanks for listening, Chip, and peace and love, and we're going to continue, spreading peace and love between us and Jews, and we want to make a clear distinction between a Jewish person and a Zionist. So Avi, you got to think and look at yourself in the mirror and deeply think and reflect. Am I Jewish or am I Zionist? If you decide to be the latter, then you're cheering genocide and you're trying to justify genocide. But if you want to be Jewish, and a lot of millions of Jews around the world are saying, not in my name, not in my name. And real Jews, they go to Israel, they live in Israel for 6 months, 1 year, and they leave Israel. They say, bloody hell, this is not Judaism. Oh my God, look at the thriving racism in this society. This is not my religion. They leave. They go back to the UK, to Morocco, to God knows where they came from. Because that society, Israeli society today, does not reflect in any way, shape, or form Judaism and the Jewish religion. Thanks, Chip.
All right,
Peace,
brother.
brother. Keep up the good
Avi,
fight, man.
you were addressed, Avi. So real quick, 1 minute to respond, and then I'm going to let Dawood come.
Absolutely.
Oh, 1 minute for all these issues.
Well,
That's a
I have
problem.
to if you want to wait, you can have more time. I just want to let the next person come in. If you want, I can do that now.
Okay, just to say about this, about the end, because I have a lot to say, because
That's okay.
this guy never says about what's happening in Sudan and Syria,
Take-
just about Israel.
Take notes like I do.
Yeah, it's just about what's happening in Israel, but Sudan is more close to him than Israel, but he doesn't care about this. So I just make one issue about Judaism and Zionist. Yeah, it's a bit pretty to be Jewish in the history, when Jewish don't have a state, so they get slaughters, in the Middle East by the kick out of all the Arab countries, not in Morocco, but most of the Arab countries will kick them out and take all the stuff they have. And I don't know about what's happening in Europe, about the 6 million. So I'm proud to be Zionist, because Judaism in the old time They didn't fight for themselves, you know. They just under other countries, and they just all the time get inquisition and get slaughters. Now we have our own country, and I'm proud to be Zionist because we have an army. Nobody can do the 7th of October without punished, you know. In the old time, 7th of October and everything was, you know, okay, slaughter another Jew, not the heaven. But now people know that when they do 7th of October, they're going to be punished and real punished. No, it's not going. They say we're going to do a 7th of October again and again and again. No, it's not going to be again and again and again. You know, they dream about Al-Aqsa and release Jerusalem. Now they dream about releasing Gaza or releasing some neighborhood. They don't even close to be close to Jerusalem. This is in short.
Okay, I'll let you come back with some other thoughts. I'll give you time, I promise. Thank you for keeping it short. Is it Dawood? Dawood? I'm not sure how you say your name.
Dawood, yeah, Dawood.
Dawood, hi, welcome.
Hi, Jay. You know, with regards to Avi, I want to say it's always the same. Whenever you talk to a bro Zionist, right? Also, whenever you talk to a Zionist, it's always the same 5, 6, 7 points they're going to raise. That's all they ever do. So, with regards to, oh, you know, you're not talking about what's happening in Sudan or Syria. There were plenty of protests when Syria was taking place in the UK, for example, right? And there's plenty of protests and issues raised about other countries as well. Have we seen the death and destruction at the same kind of level and the way that it's been done in Gaza? I doubt it. And I'm not saying that, you know, whether it's to do with numbers or it makes it any better or worse. You know, at the end of the day, anybody who's getting unalive is getting unalive, right? And the people are suffering, the poor people are suffering. One thing that Abby did mention was, I think he raised the point. I'm just trying to remember what he said now. Yeah, he raised the point about the Muslims or the Palestinians not complaining or talking about the H group. Yes, we condemn the unaliving of any innocent person when it comes to the 7th of October or any other date, right? We condemn it. But the funny thing is when it comes to the pro-Israeli guys, they'll justify it, or you hardly hear any of them condemn it. They'll say, oh, you know, because they voted in Hamas, because they voted in the H group, then they deserve what's coming, right? And the rabbis have even given books to the Israeli soldiers saying that it's okay to unalive babies and it's okay to grape. And they're your own rabbis who have given these books. Anyway, that's what I want to say. Thanks,
Okay,
Chip.
speaking of books, really quickly, I want to mention something during a conversation. I forgot to talk about this. I was on a live earlier, and this person's name was Queen of Israel. She said that the number 10 selling book in Gaza or the occupied territories or all of Palestine is the book written by Adolf Mustache called Mein Kampf or My Struggle. That's not true. That copies of these books have been found all over the place inside of young kids' rooms, in nurseries and stuff. What 5, 7, 8-year-old kid reads a 450-page autobiography by a German, up and coming politician / angry World War I military veteran? Are you kidding me? I mean, these are just the absurd levels of propaganda that come out that are just, talking points. And I get accused of making Palestinian talking points. That kind of stuff is just absurd. I mean, I think any third grader, speaking of third graders, could figure out that that doesn't make any sense. Think about it for a second. So the idea is that every person in Gaza is indoctrinated to hate Jewish people. And it's always about Jewish people. It has nothing to do with the occupation, nothing to do with oppression, nothing to do with mistreatment or unaliveness of your relatives for decades. Not the homes that were lost, not the houses that were knocked down, not the cement that was poured into your water well, not the checkpoints you got to go through, not the incursions into Gaza where 1,500 people were killed and buildings were knocked down, and has nothing to do with all that. It's about just pure hatred of Jews. Yeah, that's what.
There's an interview I think on YouTube by a lady called Nurit Halahad. She's an Israeli author and professor, and she said that from the age of 3 years old, the Israelis are taught to hate, right? But when it comes to the Palestinian side, there's so much censorship now that they can't even talk about the Nakba. If they dare talk about even things like the Nakba, their funding is stopped. So there's some that's the kind of mentoring and censorship that's taking place in Palestine when it comes to teaching their kids. And then she talks about how the black kids in schools in Israel, they're taught in either separate schools or in separate classes when it comes to like the Yemeni kids and the Ethiopian kids. right? And there's a whole load, and she's the one, you can look at her interview, and she's the one who says that how the rabbis have given them books of, of unaliving babies and raping, and it's okay to do that. And she talks about many, many other points.
Can I respond?
Okay, well, yeah, let Avi, please, you have a couple of minutes here. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all,
Oh,
Chip,
real
what
quick
you're
though, before
saying,
you
it's
start out,
easy,
sorry,
easy.
there's someone trying to connect. Never mind. Go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
First of all, it's very easy to debunk what you're saying just now, Chip, because you just say about it's ridiculous that that the people in Gaza are tweeted about hating Jews. So first of all, what she's saying is absolutely true, but I can prove it to you easily. Go to any interview before 7th of October with Gazan civilians. Any interview you find, never mind CNN, Al Jazeera, whatever. The people in Gaza never said the Israelis, never said the Zionists. You know what they say about when they say we have to unalive and everything? This the Yahud. The Yahud. They don't the teaching there in the television and even in the age group television, in the official television, they don't say we have to unalive the Israelis or the Zionists. The Palestinians here in these lives, they they don't say Israeli, they say Zionist, but because this is like a nice word, they say, but in the age group they don't say it. In all the schools and all every open YouTube or whatever is an interview with Gazan people, they say the Yahud. The Yahud, we have to kill the Yahud. They don't mean no Zionists and not Israeli. So, Chip,
Can
you
I
can
ask a
say
question?
sometimes, Chip, I am sorry, I make a mistake, and I really appreciate it. Now you can check it and say, yeah, I make a mistake because Gazan. I really touch in all the book we find in the Gaza school. Why it's about the Yahud. We have to do it. They are all the prophets are was against the Yahud. The Yahud are pigs, and the Yahuds are this and the Yahud are this. So even if you don't believe me, you can go any interview from Gaza, any civilians that talk about Israel, you don't talk no Zionists, the Yahud, because they teach the Yahud, the Jewish people are bad people. They
I didn't do that, Avi. Is there a moderator that did that in the chat? If you're a moderator, please don't mute anybody. I'll take care of doing that. I did not mute you, Avi.
Okay, so I just said telling you it's easy to be bank you and you can check it and you can say I'm sorry because in the age group I'm not talking about all the Palestinians in Gaza. They teach directly not about the Israelis, about the Yahud, and the age group charter talking about the Yahud. The first charter you have to analyze any Yahud that get behind any tree. So it's easy to debunk what you're saying and you can check it and you can say I'm sorry. First time I want to hear you say I'm sorry because the age group is talking about the Yahud, not Israeli, not Zionist.
If I have something factually incorrect, I have no problem acknowledging it. So a couple of things came to mind while you were saying that. And again, a couple of things. So first of all, I have no doubt that what you're saying is accurate because I don't know what you've seen. If I could see the same thing, I'm sure I'd agree with you. And the question would be, in terms of quote unquote interviews, how many people among the population, is it pervasive? Is it everyone? Is it those that have been interviewed? Are the ones that have been interviewed indicative of the entire population? And the reason I say that is investigative journalist, independent journalist Abby Martin went to Jerusalem as a part of her trip just to gather information about the conflict. And her site, I can even play it for us if you want to see it. And she just goes around and talks to random people, younger, middle-aged, older, doesn't matter, just saying, hey, do you mind if I talk to you for a second about what's going on in Israel vis-a-vis Palestine? And they go, okay. And they just start talking. And what the people say in quote unquote the interviews, same thing you're referring to, are horrific. They talk about killing all the Arabs. They have no right to live. They should be nuked. All this stuff like this. So I don't know if that's unique or if that's indicative of a widespread belief, if that's just anecdotal from the interviews that she conducted because she didn't set things up. She just literally, not unedited footage, just literally talked to people and she showed everybody. So it was very unsettling to hear that. And so I don't know if that's
true. It's true. It's true.
Do you think that everybody from Israel thinks that way, or do you think it's just all Palestinians that think that way?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer you. First of all, I totally agree what you're saying. There are a lot of racism. Usually, if you go to Jerusalem in the ultra Orthodox community, they think about Not just about the Arabs, even in
Yeah.
myself as a secular, they think about non-Jewish because we not practice the religion. So, this is the opposite because for my point of view, anyone who think he's God talking with him, that the other people he's not believing the same God, he's a bad man or stuff like this, he's for me a big racist. But for you guys, and especially you, Chip, that you're talking about the age group as a revolution movement. No, it's the same. There are people that think that everybody who's not believing their God, you never see Christian people in the age group. The opposite, the Christian population during the age group ruling there was about half. The Muslim population was about 5 times more, yeah, in during the time of the age group. And the Christian population was about, I think, 30% staying there, and all the 70% has go to Europe to get silent. So to
Yeah.
say about the age group, there are, a kind of John Lennon movement about give peace and chance. That's a joke, the only thing, Chip, you also believe it because what I saying about the age group about in the interview, it's all over Gaza. You never see Gazan man you can see 5 years television interview, not from Israeli television because they're not allowed to go inside. Even for Al Jazeera, for any place, they're not talking about Israel. I don't talking about the leaders, the civilian, the young people that they talk, not the people who used to work in Israel, the old people, because they know the Israelis. But all the young people, when you see microphone, the Yahud, we have to do this to the Yahud, just the meaning Yahud, not meaning Israeli. And I can guarantee
Okay,
to
you,
you,
you
Chip,
made you
that
made
after
that
you
point.
check it,
You made that
last
point.
sentence, after you check it, you come back here and say, Abu, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, if
He's
I'll
such a
just let
lie,
me
man. He's such
hold
a
on,
liar.
No, it's
hold on,
not true.
hold on, just one sec. Okay, listen, it's fair if somebody raises a point and they claim there's evidence for it. Let's check the evidence. If the evidence corroborates it, we say it's what happened. If we say it doesn't, then we talk about that too. I do want to show something briefly. This was released in the last 24 hours. This happened in mid-February, but this is something that was just released on video. It's just sort of hot news. So I'm going to show it to the audience. It has been censored slightly so that it doesn't violate the community guidelines. But I'm going to play this, and then we'll get some feedback from the audience. We're going to go
So
to Doha.
guys,
We're going to hold on. We're going to go to Doha first, and then we're going to go. It's only like a 2-minute video at the most, and then we'll go to Layla, and then we'll come back around the horn. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to turn my camera around, get my volume turned up, and then we'll do this. Okay, so first I'm going to read it for you. I'm going to make my screen big here. Okay, so the title of the thing, if you can't see it that well, it says a series of lethal Israeli air attacks on 4 Palestinians was captured on video, and then it says warning, distressing images. So if you're someone who's squeamish, you might want to look away because this is not the greatest of things to have to watch. But let me turn my volume up so we can hear it, and then we'll do it. So here we go. Okay, so that's what's in the news. I want to hear. I think the next Person to speak was going to be Doha. So Doha, have you seen that before? And if you
Yeah,
haven't,
yeah.
or what if you haven't, what do you think of that?
Hello, Chip. I came here because this video I cannot get over it since I've seen it yesterday. I threw up since seeing it. I cannot sleep. I cannot stop crying. I'm sorry if I'm being emotional. I'm sorry if this is too emotional and I should be rational and I should just speak facts. But it just made me sick to my stomach. I can't move on with my life. I put myself in the shoes of the fourth person that saw his friend getting killed, and I'm imagining seeing them killed and just walking in. What is going on in his mind? Like he's saying, "Please God, don't let them kill me," and then bam. This video just literally made me sick. I'm sick, and I'm a doctor, and I should, I should have, I saw a lot of people dying in front of me. I should have a heart, a tough heart. I should, but it just made me so sick. How is nobody doing nothing? How is just killing people has become so easy. I just imagine those soldiers and be like, oh, shoot him. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do it. How, the life of a Palestinian is just a subhuman in their eyes. They're just pushing that buttons. It's like a game for them. It's enraging for me. And seeing people just protect or defending Israel after that, I'm like angry, and I'm not an angry person. I'm a loving person. I have a lot of Jewish friends. I'm a Moroccan. I grew up with Jewish people. I am the most tolerant people ever. I do the difference between a Zionist and a Jewish, but right now I have such anger in me that it just, I don't know how people can defend this anymore. And seeing that so many people are like still defending and saying it's propaganda, it's shit, I'm like, F off. I'm sorry. I don't have any words anymore. Avi, I just want to say that this video, that this footage, does it please your heart? Do you, when you see it, say, oh, they're extremist Arabs, oh, good, kill them? What do you feel when you
Hi guys.
when you see such things? I just want to know, because maybe we have a different level of humanity. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe the problem is me. I just want to know, how can someone defend an army like this after just one video as this? And
Really quickly
I'm sorry, Chip.
That's okay.
You know,
Before
real quick to
real
answer
quick, I
her.
want to just want to clarify one thing real quick. I'll let you answer, Avi. Somebody in the comments named Gugafas said, how do we know this was done in Gaza? Maybe this could have been someplace else. We know this was done in Gaza because the drone that fired these missiles at these poor men was downed over Gaza, and they retrieved the video footage from the drone. And that's how they know it happened here, and that's where it came from. So, okay, Avi, you were asked about your humanity. What do you think about seeing this? What do you think?
First of all, I didn't understand. Sorry, I see unalive 4 people, and that's all. There was something else that I didn't, because I know 30,000 was unalive. So what's special about those 4 people?
When you say what's special about them, the point is
Yeah,
that
what's special about this video? I didn't understand. There are 30,000 unalive, 10,000 age group members and another 20,000 civilians. So what we want to see with these
Those people
videos?
are walking without being
that's
without
so when you say this is indicative of a thought process, what's special about those people? First of all, every single person that's died among the
No,
30,000.
not about those people. Not about those people.
But let me finish the thought. So I think this is indicative of sort of a callous indifference to the suffering of others. And maybe I misinterpreted what you said, but what's special about these people is they're walking back towards their homes that have been damaged to try to retrieve and check on things, and they get fired, they get destroyed and killed by a missile from a drone system that's operated remotely by somebody in a little room somewhere. And why? Because they can. This is what Israel's been doing. This is the part that people would never
No,
believe.
but I am asking you.
Hold on, let me finish. This is the part for people who support Israel never believe. They think that these sorts of things just don't happen. They think anybody who reports this stuff is lying. I have on my phone that I'm talking to you on right now at least 5 or 6 dozen videos that show exact things like this happening. People just standing on the street corner, boom, hit by a sniper. There's a video of a woman, a grandmother, who's walking across the street with her little baby, a woman, just a grandmother. She's like 4 feet 9 inches tall. Boom, shot in the head, dead. Now, was she a combatant? Was she somehow threatening the state of Israel? Nope, just a soldier who decided to shoot a Palestinian. There's a T-shirt that the IDF shares amongst themselves. You can find it on the internet. It has a picture of a Palestinian woman, pregnant, and it has a little reticle, like a little, bullseye over top of her midsection. It says 1 shot, 2 kills. This is the mindset, unfortunately, and this is the behavior. This is why I'm so outraged by it's not because I hate Israel or because I hate Jewish people. It's because this kind of behavior, this callous indifference to human life, it has nothing to do with the security of Israel and everything to do with abject cruelty and murder, which I think is just nobody would find acceptable. And there's just thousands of examples of this over the last 75 years that it's impossible not to look at. And you can argue that Israel's security is more important, or you can argue that because of the attacks that have taken place, it's justified. I don't believe that. I think the attacks that have happened are horrible, but I don't think anything can justify both what's happened in response to those attacks over many decades, as well as especially what we're seeing right now. And that's why it's important, because these people had friends, families, brothers, sisters, mothers, sons, daughters. These are human beings, just like any Israeli.
I really don't understand you. You see 4 people that running away.
Hold on, let Avi talk. I didn't put you on mute, Avi.
I see 4 people running and they get unalive because we don't know what's happened before. Because when you see a lot of some attacks in the West Bank or stuff like this, you see Israeli army boom boom the attacker. But what you see after what's happened. Now you see 4 people running. Probably the drone don't do it just because there are 4 people. Let me just finish. Let me say this first.
They were walking.
Let me finish that thought.
They were walking.
Yeah, they were running away from. Let me finish.
Avi, I don't. Maybe you and I have a different idea of mobility. When somebody's moving slowly and they're moving their feet, they're not off the ground rapidly. That's called walking. When they're moving quickly and they're running with their feet moving quickly under them, that's called running. These people were not running.
Even they're not running, but you have to see the whole picture. What happened before? Maybe they were hiding in the building, and then the drone chasing there after they make it some. After they know that they are. And how do I know it's not true? Because you see the ruining of the north of Gaza, yeah, and it's saying that it's from the beginning of the war. The war was started 2 weeks, about 3 weeks after the 7th of October. And the army gave the people to go to the south, and most of the people stay in the north was the age group members and some civilians who don't want to go to the south.
This happened on
so let me just finish my thought. Let me finish the thought.
Hold on. You're telling the audience the wrong information. This happened on February the 5th, which is October 7th. You got November, December, January. This is 4 months into the conflict. This is after the ICJ's initial conference, where they said that Israel needs to do everything it can to avoid civilian casualties. This is not doing everything you can to avoid civilian casualties.
Who told you there are civilians? How do you know there are civilians?
Hold on. Now, to make the claim that anytime you hurt anybody who's of male age, that you can automatically just say they may have been bad guys, means you can kill every single male civilian over the age of 15 years old and have no reason for pushback, according to that logic. So I don't know for sure if these people have anything to do with anything with conflict, but they do appear to be unarmed. They're not carrying rifles. And if you're a militant and you're worried about being hit by drone strikes, which I would be if I was a militant, I would be underground moving by the tunnel system that has vehicular traffic underneath the ground.
No. You can see Al Jazeera. You probably not see Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera, you see how they attack the Israeli soldiers. They going out like without no weapons, no nothing. They go inside the buildings or out of the tunnels, yeah, and they take the weapons. They boom Israeli soldiers, and they get out like nothing, or pregnant woman or nothing like this. It's what you're saying is totally untrue. They put the weapons in the hiding and they go as the civilians. So I don't know this is the case because I don't know the case, but absolutely you also don't know what's happened before. So you just are civilians. How do you say they are civilians? You see the age group have a beautiful uniform in the marching before the 7th of October, but after this they don't wearing the uniform. They wear like civilians because they hide inside civilian population and they walk inside civilian population. population. And how do you decide they are civilians? How do you know it? Why you take all the time decide one side? How do you know before that they didn't attack any army
Avi,
base?
hold on. According to the rules of war, you may have heard this thing called the Geneva Convention. It's not the responsibility of the people on the ground to wear some sort of white flag to tell you they're not a combatant. It's the responsibility of the warring party to determine with clarity and conviction that the people who they're targeting are indeed combatants, even if they're dressed in alternative clothing. You can't just blow people up and say, well, they might have been, so therefore, oh well. That's the logic that you're using right now. So you're saying that I'm
No, I say that
Hold on.
not you, not I know the
You're
truth.
saying that I'm making assumptions that they're not. You're right. I can't say for sure they're not somebody who may have been involved in something that was related to the H group. I can't say for sure. But what I can tell you is I know for a fact that most people who live in Gaza are not members of the H group. We do know that, right? From a numerical standpoint, the administrative group of H group, they have about 55 or 60,000 total people in their entire organization, among whom about 25 or 30,000 have to be militants. We know that for a fact. So therefore, you just from a mathematical standpoint, how many men are there of adult age in Gaza? Probably about 35% of the population, which is roughly about 980,000 people. So we're talking about 50,000 people out of 980,000 men. So how do we know that every single man is potentially a H group member that's worthy of being blown up by a drone?
I have a question for Avi.
You totally
Avi,
mistake because
Hold on,
you
let
see
me-
the
let me-
wing
let
of
me
Gaza.
answer you first. Go ahead.
You see the
Is there a mentor that keeps muting people? I mean, a moderator? Because if you're a moderator who keeps muting people, please don't do that.
last time I was asked.
you say it was in February. February, most of north of Gaza and you see it's north of Gaza because of the wing of the building was empty. So I don't know if they are age group members or not. I'm not sure. I cannot say. But usually I trust my army that they target not just civilians, not civilians not by mistake. But you can know by the wing it's north of Gaza. In February, no civilians was in north of Gaza. They all go to Rafah in the south. So there is a lot of percentages they are age group. But even if I'm saying this, I don't know the truth. But even though you don't know the truth, we don't know because we don't see what's happened before. We don't see where they come from, what they do before. So how could you can say, and you take inside and you say they are civilians? Why you cannot say I don't know they're civilians or no. I can see people unalive, yeah. But you can say if you really want to say the truth. I don't know the story. I don't know what's happened. I see part of the drone. I don't see the first part of the drone. Why if they have all the picture of the drone, why don't show us what's happened before? Why do you just see when they unalive? Why you cannot? Because the drone don't just start to photo from there. It's have to film from before. So if they have the old
Yeah.
film, why they don't show us to
Okay,
us?
I got your point, Avi. You don't have to say it again. So someone in the
can
chat
give-
just said, "What? Hold on. Somebody just said in the chat. Let me finish this thought. Somebody just said in the chat, "Why don't they wave white flags?" If you remember, there were 3 Israeli soldiers who had no shirts on, were waving white flags, and the IDF shot them. So waving a white flag does not stop the Israelis from shooting people. Now, obviously, in fairness, he's right. He's absolutely right. I can't say with certainty that what he's saying is not correct, and I can't say that what I'm saying is correct. That's a fair point to raise. Here's the difference that Avi says, and this is where I completely disagree with Avi. He says he trusts his military. The last military in the world I would trust not to harm civilians is the Israeli military. I have example after example after example after example after example of them just abjectly killing civilians. They do it all the time. And this is not October 7th and October 8th. This is 1982, 1984, 1991, 1967. This has been a practice by the Israeli military forever because they can. They have more arms, they're the better equipped military, and they have the upper hand. And until recently, there's been no media coverage or hardly ever. So it's very hard. And that's just what I've been able to see. Prior to these decades, very little of it gets filmed because there wasn't widespread smartphone cameras. There was just people's video cameras. So Avi, that's why I make the presumption that I make, Avi, not because I have one side or the other, because of a long-standing pattern of horrific behavior where the IDF, for whatever reason, and you can say it's just a few bad apples here and there, but they murdered journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. And then they had the audacity to go to her funeral 2 days later and beat the attendees, and the pallbearers. Now, how did that have to do with Israeli security, Avi? So these are the things I find
Yeah,
absolutely reprehensible about Israel. Israel is disgusting in how they choose to use violence. One sec. Hey, dog. Sorry about that. Israel, if you don't, Avi, listen, this is the hard part to acknowledge. If I was Israeli, and by the way, it took me a long time as an American to realize what my government does. It's hard to acknowledge that your group of people are not the good guys. You want to believe they are. I want to believe that the American government is the good guys, the USA, all that stuff like that, wave the flag, patriotic. The US is not the good guys. We're the bad guys. We go out and murder people. We go out and assassinate people. We kill civilians. We destroy people with zones. We bomb weddings where we think there might be one person in the reception, or there's 65 Afghanis, and we think there might be one militant, and we bomb the entire wedding and kill 65 people. And we may or may not even have gotten the bad guy. And we do that hundreds of times a year, all over the world. Now, that's not what I consider the good guy. And if you're an Israeli person like Avi is, and you watch these things happen, in this case, he may be right. He may be absolutely right. These people may have been H group militants. I don't know for sure. But the pattern, behavior patterns matter. Past behavior is indicative of future behavior. That's why they have something called your prior record when they go to sentence you in court, because if you've done a lot of stuff in the past, you're probably going to do a lot of stuff in the future. I have
I
video
agree.
after video after video after video after video on my phone of the Israelis killing people. And
I agree with you.
these are women and these are children that had nothing to do with anything to do with any kind of militant activity. And yet Israel somehow.
I can give you names.
So the
I
point I'm
can
trying
give
to
you names. I know them in person.
hold on. So the point I'm trying to make is this. The reason I would quote unquote jump to a conclusion, which I shouldn't do, you're right, I agree with you, is because of the history that I've observed for a long period of time of it being the case in most cases. But you're right. In this case, it may not have been. But I tell you what, it's not a good look. It doesn't look good for the
Yeah,
Israelis.
you absolutely. Let me just answer you a little bit.
We got to let the
Answer.
next person in
You
just one
say,
second. We're gonna let him just
yeah, I want two sentences.
Yep,
You
go
allow
ahead.
me?
Go ahead. Yep.
Avi, a quick question.
Yeah, I just want two sentences to tell you. You're absolutely not right about no video in history. I have many videos of the Munich massacres in Germany. There was a lot of videos. In the Second Intifada in my city, all what's happened in the restaurant, in the buses, in
You
Jerusalem.
misunderstood me. I said I didn't say there were no videos. I said that there was there's less things.
Yeah, but we know what the Palestinians are usually doing.
Avi, in 1981, there were not.
Why I say sentence and you're muting me or who's muting me?
This is me doing it because I'm trying to. We're not. We agree. What you're saying is there's film to prove certain atrocities by Palestinians on video. I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying is that the number of atrocities committed by the Israelis to Palestinians have not been documented to any extent they would have been had video cameras to this extent today been available back when they happened. That was my point. And that way, and I'm only going with the ones that I have seen that did get videotaped as an example of these past behaviors. So there's probably way more is what I'm trying to say. So I got to let someone else jump in, Avi. I think the next person here was Layla, and then we'll do it to Khalid.
I just want to say good night because I have to go to sleep.
Take care.
So thank you for letting me talk, and I hope.
Hey, can I just add a question for Avi before he goes?
He took off. But let me it's a revolution. Hold your thought. I got to give somebody else a chance, and then we'll get back to you. Layla 99, would you like to share any thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I actually listened to the Avi in the beginning, and the reason I chose to come as a guest is just for some intriguing thought that he was talking about. I'm a Muslim, I'm born Muslim, and I'm a Muslim. It was really a bit of a weird when he said that we talk about Yahud, and whenever we are inflicting any kind of upsetness about whatever is happening in Gaza, we talk about killing Yahuds and all that thing. We never thought about that. We've been taught since a young age that the religion have nothing to do, that the Jewishness is nothing to do with whatever is happening in Gaza at that point. And as whoever can hear can say that we have a lot of Jewish people who are living in Arabic country, and we are all living together, and there is nothing of planning to kill Yahud in Arab country. That's a big lie. And he said that we teach the kids to kill Yahud. You have to understand and differentiate between the religion and the people. So we never teach our kids to kill Yahud or plan to kill Yahud, because that's a religion. That's nothing to do with the people in Israel. And even all Palestinians, when they will talk about the problem they are in, the occupation, they mention the occupation as a word. They don't mention religion. They don't say Yahud. They don't say Israel even. Because there is a people who are living in Israel that have nothing to do with whatever the IDF is planning and doing and whatever is that. So I just came here to say two things, which is me as a born Muslim and all my life I'm Muslim, we never planned and thought about hating a Yahud or planning to kill a Yahud. That's completely nonsense. Completely nonsense. And we don't teach our kids how to kill Yahud. Because we do have Yahud who are living in Morocco, in Yemen, in Ethiopia, and everywhere in Muslim countries. So I don't think that's even true. That's a big lie that he was talking about, that we teach our kids to kill Yahud. It's like saying that we teach the kids how to kill Christian. And it makes no sense. Whatever is happening in Gaza has nothing to do with the religion of whatever he said as a Yahud and all that thing. That's a big lie that he tried to use it to just generalize the idea of Arab and Muslim hating and Yahud. That's number one. And then when you show the video, he mentioned that how you know that they are not the group H. So now you are talking about Muslim people hating Yahud just for being Yahud, and then whenever you see 4 people walking in the ground, and then now you're assuming that they are terrorists and you should be kill them. Is that what he's pretending that we do? So it's complete nonsense what he's talking about. He just saw 4 people walking, and then he thought that they deserve to die. Where is
Layla.
Hold on a minute, Lex. Hold on. Layla, please finish.
Yeah, where is the chance we take people and we take them to a certain accountability and ask them what happened? We just start killing people and then assuming that they might be involved in something. Like the whole issue is now changed and is different, and now we are killing people and then we are assuming we're going with a certain story that fits our imagination and give us a good reason to feel safe and to feel satisfied about ourselves and say, okay, maybe they deserve to be killed just because maybe they are doing that and that. And then it's really now it's different the way we start thinking. Now we start accepting people to die. We start accepting kids to die. We start accepting kids dying out of starvation. And the thing changed throughout this 4 months. And then we start arguing the fact that are they bad, are they not bad? So kill them first, and then we argue, and then we convince each other. Now I'm sure that Avi is lying in the bed and under the AC and he's enjoying his environment. Maybe had a very nice meal, and now he's arguing with there are 4 people who died that they deserve it. Maybe. Why we are assuming? Maybe kill them first, and then we will talk about the reason why they should be killed.
Yeah, I do want to say one thing in fairness to the situation, just to be objective, and I don't know for sure. My guess is these were just civilians walking around in Gaza because most people aren't members. But it is possible, within the realm of possibility, that there may have been intelligence that somebody saw people doing something somewhere, and then the same 4 people ducked out of another spot dressed differently. And it could be. I want to put that out there as a possibility. I think it's unlikely, but it is technically possible. So we need to leave. In situations where we don't know every fact, we have to at least leave open the possibility of that being the case, because it could be, but I doubt it.
Yes, Chip, it's possible, could be. We don't know that part of the story. But then when you show us the video, we have this much of information. We cannot justify killing people and say, okay, let's see and just go run our imagination and think about the reason. Now, I want to just to clarify one thing. At the time we see the video, all of us, we saw it at the same time, right? We saw it at the same time. Why we should all assume that these people are bad people? They're being killed. These people, they're being killed. Now we need to ask to investigate, not to assume that they are bad and that's it. And we should be consciously, a bit of relief because we have a doubt. That's even not acceptable. When I see a group of people dying in a ruthless way, I should not immediately think, okay, maybe they deserve it. This is a wrong way of thinking. We don't know the story. We saw the video at the same time. The first thing that it comes in our mind is we need to work and we need to investigate this. Not, okay, maybe they deserve it. That's a wrong way of thinking. And this is exactly what he was talking about, generalizing and hateness to a certain people. He just saw 4 black people wearing a black dress and then suddenly, okay, let's argue the fact that they might deserve it. just because we don't have an information. So now everybody have to be accused to be a bad person unless we have a clear evidence somehow, somewhere, after we kill them. And this is even the wrong way of thinking. Yes, I'm sure you don't know the whole story. We all don't know the whole story. But he just cannot come into the conclusion that kill them first, and then we will discuss the thing.
Real quick, I saw somebody from the moderator inviting guests up. Whoever's doing the moderating today in terms of muting people and inviting guests, please stop doing that. The only thing I would like you to do, if you don't mind, is if somebody says something horrific in the comments, just then mute that person. We don't want to have anybody saying violent things. But other than that, I like to be able to decide which guests come up and when, if you don't mind. And I don't want to mute people unless I want to mute them. So just please, it's getting a little bit too much. So I appreciate your help, but it's been a little more than usual. Somebody's writing in all caps, Doc, DJ, nobody ever claimed that they deserved it, my friend, over and over again. Please no all caps in the chat, everybody. We want to give everybody a chance to share their point of view, but not all caps. Okay. By the way, whoever's next, I think Layla, then the next person was, it must have been Manilux, because the other person must have left. Thanks for sharing what you shared, Layla, and let's let Manilux jump in.
I wanted to speak about the video. I seen the video. I actually DM'd you, Chip. I sent it to you in the DM. But yeah, I totally agree. We see a video like that, we shouldn't think, oh, they could have been a bad people, you know? Because the objective is, if you see this whole, situation, it's very obvious that they don't consider or value the lives of Palestinians. They refer them as animals, and they're just, everyone is a terrorist, including the children, which is insane. So when I see a video like that, I'm not thinking about the possibility that they could be Hamas or the age group. These are 4 people that are walking. They're not in uniform. They're boom boomed. The one who gets away limping gets boom boomed again. It's a very horrific thing to see. And I'm not thinking that these people at all were at all like the T word. If there's an evidence to show that they were, then yes, I would believe it. But that is not my first thought. That is not my thought. That's not my thought process. That's not where I go first thing, because I've seen how they are booming without any, consideration of civilians. Hospitals are being boomed. The UN schools, a building full of people. There's no target. Everyone is a target. That's just my opinion.
Okay. I think that, thank you, by the way. I think Federico was next.
Hey, Chip. Hey, everybody. Like I was gonna ask, what's in there, Avi? Like he's talking, he's assuming these people were not civilians. I agree with you. We should not judge. But you mentioned that lady walking with the child. Okay, I'm gonna split that lady walking with the child 50-50. The lady is some militant hiding under a dress of an old lady. They unalived it, and then they went after the child. What does he have to say about that? A child, that you can't compress an old man, make him into a child to look like a child. And it seems like they don't wanna understand or believe that they're not as moral, or that they are not moral at all the way they believe. It's just, what kind of brainwashing these people going through. I really can't understand. Like sometimes I feel bad when I see some young people that go from all over the globe to join the IDF. Beautiful souls, young children, like kids, and they go to die for something that they don't know why they're getting unalived for. It's amazing how can they grab a child and turn him into a killing machine. Like, how can you transfer a soul from a human to somebody that does not care? How does he point his gun and put it? Like, if I have a child or I have a brother or whoever and does some harm to an animal, to a cat, to a dog, I would go ballistic on him. Yet these people justify and try to find excuses for the action of their soldiers instead of standing up. These people, after that, at one point, this war is going to end, and these criminals are going back to society. They're going to go back to the places they came from. They're going to go back to their homes, and are they going to be normal? Are they gonna live their life? What's going to happen to these people? Like, what's the outcome of these people? From what we know, once you unalive, you become either a serial or you become crazy. And I don't know what part of life. And I seen a report today that Israel is the fifth happiest country. I believe it. They're all on Xanax. Like, that was this report about Israel being the fifth happiest country on earth. And like, how do you claim that? And I don't know if you heard about that yesterday. There was in Lebanon they released a report of an arrest of two Lebanese citizens that they were they arrested two Lebanese citizens that they were going around scanning routers and Wi-Fi, getting passwords and all of that to locate all these people, and that's how they got the H group leader in Lebanon. They got arrested 1 week later. 1 week after the unaliving happened, they got arrested. And yesterday, the investigation report was released. And I went through it. Incredible stuff, incredible technology. How they have access to every home, every cell phone in Lebanon. Every electronic in Lebanon is compromised. Can't hear you, Chip. I think you're muted, or
So that's disturbing.
yeah, they have every single Lebanese citizen on their watch. No matter where you, even if your phone is turned off, they can tell where you're standing.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy. Yep, that's the modern world. It probably is the same way in the United States too, with the National Security Agency and the CIA. It's the new world we're in. That's why these phones are so dangerous, because they're with us and they're like an electronic monitoring system.
and then we worried about our information. TikTok is passing our information to China. Who we're already transparent to everybody in the world. If you're a computer geek, you know about electronics. It doesn't take you nothing to know everybody around you, their lives, their inside, their outside, everything. We can tell everything about everybody.
Yeah, I sort of bring it full circle to what Avi was saying. If you weren't here earlier, Avi was talking about the fact that he believes that the entire reason for existence, as well as the actions of the H group, the rockets, the incursion on 10/7, everything, is because of religious fundamentalism, and that it's members from the Muslim Brotherhood and others who have spurred this fanaticism. They want to unalive Jewish people. They want to convert everybody to Islam, yada yada yada. There may be some members who believe that, I guess, but my understanding is that the vast number of people, both within society as well as those who choose to take up arms and join a group like H, are angry because of the way their people are treated, because of what happened to their grandparents, because of how they've been disrespected and dispossessed of their land and treated, humiliated, and and all the unalivings that have happened since. And yes, there's been resistance, obviously, but the responses have been overwhelmingly disproportionate. And so I just try to put myself in their shoes and think, what would motivate me to risk my life to attack somebody else? And it would have to be pretty serious, because I wouldn't do it because I just believed in a certain religion. That doesn't make any sense to me, to go through all that trouble and effort just to try to, and that's not going to convince anybody. It just doesn't make any sense. But what does make sense to me is if somebody had taken something from me and killed my brother or sister, my mother, father, maybe all of them, yeah, that would make me do something like that. So I think it's a way of obfuscating the crimes of Israel more so than it is a way of trying to explain things in a sort of a sincere way. And again, I always like to say, I believe that what Israel does is actually, its behavior is indefensible. And so you have to talk about how much money the leaders in Qatar are siphoning away. You have to talk about the fact that the book Mein Kampf is the number 10 seller, and therefore the kids are indoctrinated. You have to go to all these other points because you can't ever address the points themselves because they're indefensible. And that's the problem that I have with Israel. I mean, I understand if they want to have their security and they want to protect that, that makes sense to me. Checkpoints on the border, that makes sense to me. Why are you shooting women and children in the head and the groin? That doesn't help your security. That just further angers the population that you're already oppressing. And it goes on and on and on and on. We could talk about it for 10 hours and not even get through half of it, sadly enough. Okay, I think that Ask the Pope was next, and then we'll go to Shaq. How you doing, Ask the Pope?
Hey Chip, how are you?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I just want to say, Chip, we're dealing with an ideology, like I said. Their government is not a sane government that represents Jewish people. Okay? It's a mafia, basically, with an ideology, just like what we had in the 60s and 70s. Power and money. That's all it is. I mean, you can't justify any horrendous act. It's nothing, when it comes to them. Uh, they must have they basically they try to camouflage the actions behind the word that starts with a T. And I don't know if I could say that, but that's what they do. As far as religion has nothing to do with it. The 35 percent of Palestinians living in the diaspora, Christians, Greek Orthodox, Druze, whatever, they feel the same way. But what they like to do is divide, make it it's about this, it's about that. Yeah, during the 60s and 50s, my family left in the 67 war. You know, atrocious things were happening towards Christians and Greek Orthodox or whatever, but not for the fact that because of religion. These are paid actors that come in and divide, kill to divide, or commit a horrendous operation to divide and conquer. That's all it is. And nothing's going to change unless we get a civilized, a real Jewish government. Uh, not the ideology that they follow, a real Jewish government to negotiate with. And this would have been settled a long time ago. But at the same time, they don't want to settle it because if they don't have an enemy,
Yeah.
what are they good for? There's no reasoning for the existence of the ideology. And that's
Yeah,
all
did
I
you,
have to
did you
say.
hear what happened to Candace Owens at the Daily Wire to tie this
Oh
all together?
yeah, oh yeah. You see how she's being criticized? What? Why won't Norman Finkelstein or Noam Chomsky or all these political scientists that have numerous years of education? Why aren't they ever brought on their shows or their news? Or Israelis themselves say, well, this guy says this. Let's find out what he's thinking, why he thinks that way. Automatically, if you say the narrative, if you say the opposite of what the mafia says is correct, man, they'll turn on. We've seen it. They'll turn on their own people. It's not about being Jewish or not. It's if you don't follow the ideology, they will put you in a hole that you'll never get out of. Whether you're Jewish, Christian, Hindu, whatever it is, if you don't follow their narrative, you're done.
Yeah, and it seems like anybody, I guess Mel Gibson did this. I guess what got her in trouble, I understand. I read an article today. I don't know if it was in the Washington Post or something like that. And
Yeah.
they repeatedly, the title of the article said Candace Owen fired for her recent anti-Semitic comments.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
said. Now,
Yeah.
I didn't think anything that she talked about was anti-Semitic. She reported on some stories that had been alleged in the past of certain subjects that she didn't even say she agreed or disagreed with. She just reported on the fact that others had discussed this. And just for bringing that up, she was pasted with the scarlet letter of being anti-Semitic. I'm so
Yes.
tired of that whole scheme that goes on where people. She's a free speech advocate, as am I. I don't think anything should be outside the bounds of conversation. It's just because it upsets the sensibility of certain people. And let's face it, you cannot deny the fact that just from a strictly mathematical standpoint, even if you
Yes.
took away anything else, the numbers of people who happen to represent power within the administration, in government, and in industry are from a very, very, very small subset of the global population, a very smaller subset of the American population, and a minuscule population of that group has the positions of power. That's not by chance. It's not without it can't be something that can't be discussed. It doesn't make people horrible people, but it just makes it noteworthy to observe something that has influence to an extent that's way out of proportion with the general population.
Yes. These guys who have power, this is a certain group that care for power, control, and money. No religion, no nothing. They just use that to get the sympathy card. The Jewish people suffered World War II. They went through a horrific thing. And this ideology realized that put two and two together and we could hide and camouflage behind them and go with that sympathy card and get what we want and control, basically. I mean, and look at this attack, like for instance in Russia, horrific attack, ISIS. Okay, they're so bad, you know. You think about it when they first started, they had all this ammunition, trucks, armaments, and everything, and where they get the money from? Who supported them?
Usually the United States.
Exactly. And their partner in crime, the ones that we're talking about now, they supported these guys for specific operation to go into somewhere, divide and conquer. They sent them to Iraq. Said, "Oh, they're extremists. They went and killed a couple of Christians and scared the population into leaving." Now in Iraq, there was a
Yeah.
big population of Christians and other religions. They all fled because supposedly these guys didn't like blah blah blah. But it was all a show. It's a Hollywood movie. That's all it is. And you seen another thing. I realized this Nickelodeon issue. I never heard about this on TV. It just came out now, and it happened many, many years ago. Why? Because it didn't fit their narrative to show, they had so much control before the internet over the media. I mean, it is ridiculous. And the same thing is over there. These guys, Zios, and most of the population, I don't believe that they're bad people. I grew up with Jewish. I was born in the United States. My parents Palestinian, but I was born here, lived here all my life. Grew up went to school with Jewish people, lived in a Jewish neighborhood in Florida. Uh, we loved each other, best friends, grew up together, went to school together, went to parties together, clubs, did everything together. They looked at me as a Palestinian. Oh, they couldn't believe it. There. It wasn't too many of us over there, and they took me in as one of them. And over there they're just brainwashed and by the same ideology, and they have the resources, the money. That's the thing that has to change.
I
If
think what
anything's going
Avi
to
said,
change,
that's well, what Avi said, I don't know if you saw the guest Avi, he was from Israel and he's come on before. He
yeah,
said, in reference to the choices the Israeli military make to engage different targets, whether they're civilian, whether they're combatants, he said, I trust my army to do the right
yeah,
thing. And
that's fine. But
I don't share that trust at all. And I think that's part of that indoctrination. People are told of all the morality and different choices and
yes,
legalities, which is, I think, a bunch of
yes,
bullshit.
exactly. They're told on their TV, oh, the IDF are heroic. They saved this person and they saved probably this person. But in reality, they have these rabbis that they put in the most prestigious military academies in Israel, and these rabbis influence troops. Not all of them, but the certain brigades that know how to fight and have seen combat, these guys are taught over and over. If you have a rabbi at your military academy telling you every day it's okay to rape and it's okay to do this and it's okay to do that, sooner or later you're going to believe it. Even if you have the best intentions, but if this is getting drilled in your head over and over, day in and day out,
Yeah.
what happens? Right? And I started to think like the border troops that they have. I'm sure they like the ones that control the West Bank and in the South with Gaza. These troops are recruited. The police and the troops are recruited from the 700,000 population they have of extremists. They're not recruited. Anybody can join, or anybody can join the IDF, but who goes to where is controlled by them. Who's the most extreme goes to Gaza border, West Bank border, where the settlers are. It's not just any plain old Jewish American IDF that comes from America to Israel to join and serve his country. That's fine. He stays in Tel Aviv, but the extremists, they're the ones that go where the Palestinians are, so they can get a free hand to do what they want. Make sense?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Makes sense. Thank you for sharing your point of view and for being here. I think Shaq Speaker is going to be our next, folks. Feel free to stick around if you want to listen in. Please do.
All right. Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks for being here. Shaq Speaker, what's on your mind?
Hey, good evening, brother. How you doing, Chip? You okay?
Yeah, well, thanks.
Very, very good. Hey, what a coincidence. Me and you got the same top on today.
Hey,
Yeah.
gotta love the Army green. That's what I grew up
That's
with.
it. Yeah, I got the same one. So, some very interesting things are happening, and being discussed on your show today. I only caught the tail end of this Avi. He's basically a denier of anybody else's suffering. And here's the thing. They're so indoctrinated. The average Zionist, they actually believe the bullshit. But those who come on social media to advocate for the Zionist entity, they actually know they're bullshitting. They know they're full of lies. And so they know the difference between what is really happening and what and what the narrative is. They know they're actually lying. There is a mass, during the lockdowns, there were some eminent doctors and scientists talking about how did so many millions follow the lies and stand in line, 2 meters apart and all that sort of thing, wearing masks, take the poisonous jabs. Okay. And they called it mass formation. It's a mass psychosis. And this population of Zionists, lunatics, they're suffering this mass formation. It's a massive indoctrination, and it's a mass psychosis that they're all experiencing. And they're not innocent victims of it, by the way. They're willing victims, because in their education camps, and they have education camps, okay, they willingly teach them that they are superior, that they are chosen. Even though we've discussed it many times, the majority of them don't even believe in God. Okay, but they're some sort of advanced civilization and they're superior to everybody else. They literally believe this bullshit that they're above everybody, that the goyim, you know, me, you, and the rest of the world, okay, apart from the 15 or 16 million of them, okay, are inferior cattle and not worthy of human status. So they literally believe this. Now, those who are advocating on social media, they actually know the difference. They know they're lying because they're getting paid for doing this. So many of them have been exposed. They are being paid for it. And we've just had Michael Rappaport, you know, that lunatic potato-faced. I mean,
Yep, I made a
it's
video
just,
about it. I made a video about it.
yeah, I think I saw that. And I mean, he's just a blatant liar, and he knows he is, and it's proven. You know, he's caught on camera discussing fees, and then he's trying to cover up that, you know, it's satire or whatever that he's trying to do. Uh,
Yeah.
and you know, he's this white European potato face red. I mean, he looks like an Irishman who's had too much to drink. Okay, with his blonde hair, and he wants to convince the world that he's a Semite of the Middle East. This is just bloody crazy. And then with Candace Owen, I mean, I like her. I think she's really, really good. And I'm so proud that she stood her ground because they wanted her to recant and fall in line and fall into submission to her Zionist masters. And she refused to do that, which is, it's quite surprising because over the years I've been watching her. I mean, I like her right-wing approach. You know, sorry, not right-wing, traditional. I don't like to call it right-wing, but her conservative approach. Sorry, my correction, my mistake. Yeah,
That's okay.
her conservative approach. I like that. Okay, and I think on a number of issues, you know, where I didn't agree with her, but overall, I thought, you know, I'll always give her my support because overall, she's good. And I was waiting with bated breath to see, will she cave in? Because this could do a lot of harm. Because we know the power of the Zionist lobbies is quite immense. And if they're minded to ruin your career and bring you to, you know, bring you down, they're really good at that. And they deny that they have this power. Then they go and prove it by ruining people's careers. Okay, which is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was quite. I feel really, really sort of good that is the case, and she stood firm with it. I didn't know she was fired, but I knew that something was up. So that's confirmed. I take it that
Yeah,
she's.
her Twitter, it's what she said after she goes, I've finally been liberated, is what she said. When she said that
Oh
was, she
wow!
didn't say she was fired. She says, I've been liberated. I think she'll do quite well on her own, by the way. She's incredibly talented and very smart and very
Yeah,
hardworking. You know, even if you don't agree with her, even if you don't agree with her points of view, I think you have to admire her tenacity.
100%. And I think, and here's the thing now that what's happening now, these people who are being censored and sanctioned by the you know, the Zionist lobby, they're flourishing. You know, they're going independent. People like Mehdi Hassan, Tucker Carlson. Although Tucker Carlson, you know, I still treat him with a bit of a pinch of salt because in his past he's towed the establishment line. And sometimes you've got to be awake, I think, to the concept of gatekeepers. So
They call them
people like,
controlled opposition.
yeah, controlled opposition or gatekeepers. People like Joe Rogan. You don't get to be a billionaire broadcaster earning hundreds of millions every year,
Right.
unless you're pushing the establishment line.
Yeah, people like Max Blumenthal don't get given $100 million contracts because he speaks like Max Blumenthal. He speaks truth to power. He doesn't kiss ass. He does independent work, and nobody who does what Max Blumenthal does makes big money. Just the way it is.
100%, absolutely right. People like Max Blumenthal deserve our support, and people have got to wake up to and understand there is a real thing about gatekeepers and shills and, you know, controlled opposition. This is a real thing, and you know they go to great lengths to pay these people and build their profiles. And what that does is it dumbs you down, because you lose your ability for investigation, for asking questions, for being inquisitive, you lose your critical thinking ability.
Yeah.
And this is what this whole system is designed to dumb people down, right the way from the education system, to keep you as a worker bee, a worker drone. Basically, you're a drone. This is what they want. They need a society of drones. They need a population of drones. They need people who are fluoridated, whose brains are saturated with fluoride, so that you don't have the capacity to think for yourself, so that you just be the happy little worker and you fulfill your role, and they don't need you asking too many questions, and you just got to go and do what it is. Yeah, somebody just put a comment in there. Sophia says, look at what they did to Julian Assange, for example. Exactly. Look, I mean, the people who speak the truth get absolutely ruined, and people who pretend that they're speaking the truth. And also, by the way, I just wanted to comment on recent issues. Jared Kushner. I tell you what, he reminds me of, the movie The Omen?
I do.
Damien, the little boy who grows up to be a powerful man. Does he grow up to be a president or something like that, or the head of a huge, powerful corporation? I can't remember. Jared Kushner reminds me of him. And just so that people understand, because the whole thing was about in that movie, the 666, the mark of the beast. I mean, there's got to be something real about this, because Jared Kushner and his family purchased an office building and paid double the price for a huge office building, and the door number is 666. They wanted that. It's unbelievable. I can't remember. I think they paid like whatever the building value was. I think they paid double, basically.
You talked about the drone. I want to tell you a quick video for the audience. It's about 3 minutes. I think everybody will really enjoy it. Are you ready? This is going to be, and then we'll get back to the conversation, Shaq. Check this out, everybody. This is George Carlin, the late great George Carlin, one of my favorite human beings that ever lived, and he's talking about how society looks at us, the people at the top who are making all the money off of those of us who are not at the top. So let's check it out. It's called The Big Club. For those who don't know, here's George Carlin, and let's go now.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks. And it's the same reason that will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hardworking people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hardworking people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on. The fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
So yeah, I think that's an interesting clip that's always stayed with me. And I agree with him 100%. So we are going to finish up in about 8 minutes. I have to go do some stuff tonight. I wanted to let Brenda have a chance to speak, Shaq. Thanks for being here. And then we're going to let Amjad
You, my
finish.
friend. Thank you.
Sure thing, Shaq. Good to have you here. Brenda, how are you doing?
Good evening. Nice to see you here on a Friday evening. I didn't catch what Avi was saying, but I think I caught the beginning and I had to go put my daughter to sleep. But there was just like a couple of points that I did hear you talking about, like the influence, why people are called anti-Semitic. And when, especially with the Candace Owen, when it's brought up about the type of influence that, Zionists hold in society, and that it's automatically labeled as anti-Semitic. And I think here's the thing between the difference in those that hold power who are Zionists and who are not, is that there is no foreign government for which anybody else who's in power that is not a Zionist is advocating for any other foreign government. So it doesn't matter who is in charge of Hollywood, who is, at the top of the banking systems. It wouldn't matter if it wasn't because they use their influence to to forward the interests of Israel. Because I think if they just the fact that they're Jewish, it doesn't matter. I don't care what religion or what not religion anybody who's in charge of any sort of entity. I think what matters is how they use that influence. And so then what they did, but what they've done before in the past, that's not working so much anymore because we're all pushing back on it, is using that word, canceling you because, calling you anti-Semitic, because that used to be the voodoo, you were automatically canceled if you're called that. It was the worst thing that you could be canceled. Because as I've said many times on your show this discourse here that you have for us, is that we need to start pushing back onto why anti-Semitism is, was so powerful. Being called anti-Semitic was so powerful. And if we look at it as so many things that are wrong in our society, it's because of white supremacy, because prejudice has a hierarchy. And I made a video about this because it was something that's really been bothering me in listening to lives and listening to other people, talk, is that, Islamophobia doesn't hold the same power when you call someone Islamophobic as being called anti-Semitic. And the rise in Islamophobia after 9/11, it's insane. And, nothing was done about it. Not to the degree that, our politicians have been trying to push things since October 7th. And, the phrase from the river to the sea, all these things, actual legitimate, legislative moves that have been made for that, when that's not being done, that nothing happened, nothing changed for African Americans after BLM, not really, so if we think about it, it's the reason that anti-Semitism has held so much, or being called that, has held so much power, is because we put that the prejudice against Jews at the top of the prejudice chain. And so I think that's something that a lot of us are starting to push back on. And There was one more thing that I did want to just kind of like share with you and share with everybody who's listening. There's a thing called extinction outbursts, and I made a video about this as well because it's something that I heard a while back, and I think I've talked about it a bit, but so I like really dug into it. So an extinction outburst is used in like psychology, but I've heard biologists talk about it as well. It's like when there's a behavior that has been reinforced in the past. I give the example of like a toddler, right? Like a small child that throws a temper tantrum because they've always gotten their way. And then like all of a sudden the parent is kind of like putting their foot down. It's like, oh, well, you're not going to get this like candy now, or you're not going to, you know. And so then what does the child do? They throw a temper tantrum and, all hell breaks loose. So what's happening now is that's what's happening with Zionists is like, we are removing our full, like unequivocal, unconditional support for Israel. And so what Zionists are doing, they're throwing huge temper tantrums and calling us anti-Semitic and doing all of this because we removed that support all of a sudden, because we've put our foot down as the adult in the room. And so the second part of the definition of the extinction outburst is that if you're consistent and you continue like firm and like removing the support or like not reinforcing this behavior anymore, like it goes away. And eventually like they stop throwing a temper tantrum. So I think what I want to share with everybody is it's like, if we continue to like keep our foot down and just not necessarily engage with like designers that just want to trigger you, they're eventually going to go away. Like, I think they're eventually going to be like, we're not getting the attention that we really want. Just as the toddler eventually is going to be like, well, they're putting my mom's putting my foot down, so I guess I got to comply. So that's kind of like the equivalent that I wanted to share of what's happening there.
Okay, interesting take. Yeah, thanks for doing that. So, Brenda, I'm going to be on, just so the audience knows, I'm going to be on tomorrow at noon Eastern time. We usually go for 3 or 4 hours, sometimes longer. So I hope you'll be here tomorrow. If you've tried to come up with a guest and I couldn't take it today, I apologize for that, or if I missed your comments. Not on purpose, but please come back tomorrow, especially if you're somebody who's pro-Israel. If you want to come in tomorrow, I think it's 7 hours difference. So it'll be around 7 p.m. Tel Aviv time if you want to come in and talk. Would love to have you. Love to hear your point of view. I'll be nice to you, I promise. I may not agree with you, but I'll always be fair and give you a chance to share your point of view, unlike I get to do when I go to other people's lives, but I won't complain. The last person to speak is going to be Amjad, and then we're going to be closing up shop for the night. How you doing, Amjad?
Hi, how you doing? Hi everybody. Um, just I want to say something about what happened in Lebanon now. Um, we hear about the IDF is putting a lot of soldier in the Golan Heights, and we hear also about the Islamic resistance in Lebanon. They are deploying a lot of thousands of fighters to the Syrian Lebanese border, also to the border of Palestine. It seems there is a movement now. There is something going to happen soon. A start of a real big war between Lebanon and so-called Israel.
Yeah, it could be.
I think that will be more disaster for Israel if they start war with the resistance in Lebanon. Um, I think there is more big thing gonna be happening soon. It seems the resistance in Lebanon, they have forces also in the other side of the Syrian border. They are deploying more fighters from Syria, the one they was fighting in Syria, because the Lebanese resistance have fighters in Syria, and they are going to ward the area near the Golan Heights. So the things is getting more heated in there, and I think there is something gonna happen bigger than what happening in the border of Lebanon now. Um, the number of fighters being deployed to this area is huge from Israel and from the Lebanese resistance. Um, the other issue, we was talking about they using anti-Semitic all the time. I mean, this is can't be uh, something they fool the whole world with anymore. I think now the world is clear about the picture, real picture about Israel. I think the social media play a big role in carrying out the truth, really what happening in the ground in Palestine, the suffering of the people in Gaza and the big number of casualty and uh, the 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 death of thousands of children and women and civilians, the war crime. Al Jazeera did show a video. Four civilians was running, and the plane follow them. And
We actually showed it on the broadcast today.
yeah, uh, I mean, now the whole world can see the real truth. But my question always I leave before I end my speak always to those who still support the Zionist regime in Israel. If those people kill your child, your woman, your wife, your mother, your daughter, your family, what is you will feel? Uh, you will be fighting, you will be resistance to the occupation. If people occupied your city, take your home, take your land, it's your right to be fighting and to be a resistance. United Nations say that the the uh, this is the normal thing to happen. Nobody anymore could call Hamas is a terrorist group. It's a resistance, and the whole world come out in the streets. They speak out. The majority of the world that they are supporting the resistance in Palestine. They supporting the people, the civilians who really they pay a big price in this war. Uh, the other issue is the Israelis did lie so much about October 7, and their lies every day come out, like the Al Shifa hospital when they just enter recently. They said we arrested the leaders of Hamas in the hospital, and then they come out and admit back they are just civilians, they are not members of Hamas. So there is too much lies being told by Israel, and too much untruthful stories, and too much crime being committed. Today, the damage Israel did for themselves is huge, and they can't mend anymore. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Amjad. Yeah, thanks for telling us that. I was thinking about maybe doing a showing tomorrow, probably maybe at the 1 o'clock hour, of the Anna Balter's Life in Occupied Palestine. I know I've talked about it a lot, but maybe a lot of us haven't seen it. I'd like to watch it again. I'll do an announcement video probably about 2 hours before the live starts, and I'll just put that out there. We don't have to do it, but if enough people when I first start the live want to see it. So I hope you'll invite some people tomorrow if you're going to be there, because that's a really, really good documentary just to introduce people to what Palestinian people really endure. Like, what is really day-to-day life actually like, and why would people want to, take up arms to stop having to live like that? And that's what makes me the most angry, is how unnecessarily harsh the Israelis and their military are on people who are not doing anything to affect their security. And yet they claim the right to do so because of some arbitrary, they call everybody who even looks the wrong way at an Israeli soldier a terrorist. It just makes me sick seeing 14-year-old kids being shot in the groin, shot in the kneecap to make them permanently disabled, or worse. There's just no need for that. And they do it anyway. And that's the part about the Zionist mentality I can't stand. That exemplifies it right there. Shooting children. Like, why would you do that? The reason is because they can and because they're depraved. I hate to say it. Okay, so if you want to watch a recording of this today, we watched a couple of videos, which was cool. We showed the video of the 4 unfortunate Palestinian men that were just walking down a dirt road, and boom, they got hit by an Israeli drone. They know it was an Israeli drone because it was downed, and they got the video from the drone, which then showed the attacks, of course, because they film all that stuff. So this is the type of thing, the mass murder. I hate to have to watch it, but it is evidence of the crimes that are committed by the Zionist regime on the regular, not just after October 7th, which has been horrible. But if you followed this for any amount of time, you know this has been happening forever, since the beginning of the establishment, even before the establishment of Israel. It's just been one big horror show, and it just never seems to end. This will be recorded. It's going to be up on YouTube and Rumble in about 15 or 20 minutes if you want to watch the replay. And also, if you want to get to those YouTube and Rumble channels, you can get there through my link in my bio. It just says Linktree Chip Barnes. Click on that. If you're not inside the United States and you want to get there, you have to type into your web browser. I have those things written in the bottom of my profile. It just says the same thing, Linktree Chip Barnes. Takes you to a list of my social media, in which is the YouTube and Rumble. There's some Telegram groups. I hope you'll join. They're really cool. And there's also some donation links. I don't like to have to pimp for money. That's the worst part of any of these things. But just like Max Blumenthal, people like me who are completely independent, will never take a dime of money from anybody, corruptible. We try to do some fundraising. So if you decide you can give, please do. If you can, that's great. If not, don't worry about it. So I will see you all tomorrow. Again, for any guests that I did not get to, I'd love to. We can talk about that tomorrow, Amalek, if that's really your name. And we can talk about some other things. He was asking about who might have been behind the attacks in Russia, which we can talk about tomorrow as well. So I wish everybody a beautiful Friday night or Saturday morning, whatever it may be for you. And I will see you at noon Saturday. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.